Is it possible to forgive a loved one's infidelity? You may say no, but in this story I will show you that it is possible with one nuance, and so let's start from the beginning. My name is Eric, I am 36. Jenna, my wife, is 33. We've been married for almost 9 years, and until recently I thought our life was comfortable. Familiar. Predictable in a warm way. The kind of life where you know what kind of cup of coffee your wife will take every morning before she even gets up. She always chose a navy one with a chipped handle. I loved that cup because it was hers. Jenna worked as a freelance graphic designer, logos, websites, branding packages. She had a good eye and her clients adored her for it. She liked the flexibility. She says it gave her time to feel human between projects. In the evenings, she coached a local youth soccer team. Volunteering, she says. To give back. She had played in college and coaching helped her feel alive again, gave her a purpose beyond pixels and client edits. I admired her for that. I thought it was noble. Our home was modest, but filled with echoes of our travel photos together from trips we couldn't afford, a broken lamp we never fixed, a dent in the wall from the time we tried to move the couch without measuring it first. We were not perfect, but we were ourselves. But lately, something has changed. Jenny always had this lightness, this funny detachment. But now it's more like a distance. Disinterest. It started small, she stopped finishing stories she started, left dinner unfinished, laughed less. One evening 2 months ago, she mentioned a new player on her team. Jake. 18 years old. He's a natural leader, she said as she walked past me, changing into her coaching clothes. He's tall. He's confident. Like an old soul in a young body. I nodded, pretending to still care about her soccer team. But something about the way she said it bothered me. Not exactly the words, but the tone. She didn't glow like that when she was talking about someone else. Not even me. I brushed it off. I told myself I was being paranoid. She had trained a dozen guys, of course she would say that about every single one of them. But a few days later, she said something that gave me a chill. You know, she mused as she poured herself a glass of wine, Jake has the most beautiful eyes. Just piercing. As if he can see everything. I laughed awkwardly. That's a strange thing to say about a man, isn't it? She shrugged. Not if it's true. That was the first time I really looked at her and felt like I didn't know who she was. The next week she came home flushed and smiling. I was sitting on the couch, half watching the news, and she plopped down next to me with a goofy smile. What? I asked. Nothing, she replied, but her fingers were flying across the screen of her phone as if she were texting someone in the middle of laughing. When I leaned over to sneak a peek, she looked away. Just one of the moms asking about the tournament schedule, she said. But I knew Jenna. I knew what she looked like when she was being entertained. And it wasn't a soccer mom. I'm not jealous. I never have been. But something inside me stirred that night. A quiet, gnawing anxiety that I couldn't shake. I told myself it was just my imagination. That I was projecting. That I should trust it. But the C cup was sitting untouched on the dryer the next morning. And Jenna? She grabbed a travel mug and left without a word. And that was the first crack in the life I thought we were living. At first, I chalked it all up to the stress of her projects. Freelance clients can be a nightmare sometimes. Jenna had said more than once that she was juggling too many deadlines and her posture, head down, headphones in, fingers tapping in a blur, backed that up. But that didn't explain the shift in tone when she mentioned Jake. Or the secretive way she started handling her phone. I noticed she kept it face down now. Always. Even when she was cooking or folding laundry, she'd pause to tap out quick messages, glancing at the screen like it had a secret only she was in on. One night, I passed by the bathroom while she was showering and I caught the glow of her phone lighting up the counter through the cracked door. She was replying to texts through the steam. Who texts in the shower? I wanted to believe it was nothing. But I also knew that gut feeling, that low hum of dread behind your ribs, it doesn't just come from nowhere. Then one night, I found myself doing something I'd never done in our entire marriage. I waited for her to fall asleep before I picked up her phone. Of course, it was locked. She'd recently changed the passcode. When I asked her why, she laughed. You're not trying to get into my phone, are you? That laugh, it wasn't playful. It was defensive. Short. Like she was daring me to say yes. I didn't press. But I started watching closer. She began coming home later and later from practice. What used to be a strict 2-hour window turned into 3, then 4. I asked once, gently, practice running late? She looked startled for a split second. Yeah. Tournament prep. You know how it is. Only I didn't. I'd seen the team's schedule on our fridge. There were no more tournaments. Then there was the day I came home early from work. Her car was in the driveway, which surprised me. She said she'd be out coaching. Inside, I found her curled on the couch, smiling at her phone like it was a warm breeze. When she saw me, she jumped, locked the screen and grinned way too fast. "Just one of the parents asking about jerseys," she said. That night, I sat in bed staring at the ceiling long after she fell asleep. I could hear the soft buzz of her phone from the nightstand. 3 vibrations in 2 minutes. She didn't stir once. And I lay there wondering, what parent texts a coach at 11:47 p.m.? The next day, I started taking mental notes. Where she said she'd be. What time she left. How long she was gone. When she came back, I tried to stay normal, kissed her cheek, asked about practice, nodded through her vague replies. I didn't let on that I had started tracking every detail. The first thing I did was check the team website. Practice was only 3 nights a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday mornings for matches. Jenna was gone 5 nights last week. When I asked what night the kids had off, she blinked. "Thursday." "Why?" "Just wondering." She turned back to her laptop. "We added extra drills. You know, to keep them sharp." That Saturday, I waited until she left, then followed her. Felt ridiculous at first. Like I'd lost my mind. But the tightness in my chest didn't feel like fantasy. It felt like truth. She wasn't hard to track. Jenna never checked her rear view. Never thought she needed to. She drove to the field, parked in her usual spot. I waited, half hiding down the block behind a row of parked cars. I saw her unlock the gate, walk inside. Then Jake arrived. I recognized him from the few games I'd attended. Tall, blonde. That confident walk of someone who hasn't lived long enough to be afraid of anything. He jogged over to Jenna, who greeted him with a hug. Not a side hug. A full-body, arms-wrapped hug. Then she touched his cheek. I froze. There were no other players. No bags of cones or water bottles. No parents dropping kids off. Just the two of them. They stood on the field, talking for nearly an hour. She laughed at something he said. He reached out and brushed something from her shoulder. And then, God help me, she stepped forward and leaned her forehead against his. I drove away before I did something I couldn't take back. Back home, I stared at the TV, but I couldn't follow the plot of whatever was playing. The images blurred. When Jenna came home, she smelled like grass and sun, and her perfume, the one she only wore on date nights. "You okay?" she asked. "Headache," I said. She kissed my forehead. "Go lie down. I'll bring you something." And as she walked away, I saw it. A text bubble on her phone screen, not fully closed, "Can't stop thinking about last night." That night, I didn't sleep. I lay there, listening to the wind outside and the sound of Jenna's breathing beside me. She looked peaceful. Serene. Like someone who wasn't living in the same storm I was. I needed help. The next morning, I called my brother Matt. He's the kind of guy who reads people like books. Always has been. "I need you to come over," I told him. "Bring coffee. And be honest with me." Matt showed up 20 minutes later, coffee in hand, his expression already serious. We sat on the back porch while Jenna worked in her studio upstairs. I laid everything out, the phone, the extra practices, the field. He didn't speak for a full minute. "Do you have proof?" he finally asked. "Not yet." "Then get it. Don't confront her until you do. Otherwise, she'll gaslight the hell out of you. Make you think you're imagining it." I looked at him. "And what if I am?" "You're not." I nodded. "So, what? I become a spy now?" Matt gave a grim smile. "You become a husband who wants the truth." And just like that, I had a mission. I never thought I'd find myself doing stakeouts in my own car, nursing gas station coffee, and praying I wouldn't run into someone I knew. But that's where I was on a rainy Thursday evening, parked outside a smoothie bar Jenna said she was meeting the girls at. Only problem? I knew all 3 of her girls. One was on vacation in Maui and the other 2 had a book club that night. I checked. So there I sat, windshield wipers flapping, trying to laugh at how absurd my life had become. I had a good job, a decent house, a wife who used to make my stomach flutter with a glance, and now I was scanning every passing car like some down-market detective in a paperback novel. 30 minutes later, Jenna stepped out of the cafe. Alone. She checked her phone, smiled, then turned the corner and walked 2 blocks to a white Jeep. Jake was in the driver's seat. I don't know what I expected. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. But when the Jeep didn't move for 20 full minutes, and I saw Jenna's hand disappear into his lap, I knew I had officially left the land of suspicion and crossed into confirmation. And you know what I did next? I laughed. It wasn't funny, not really. But it was that kind of exhausted, broken laugh that bubbles up when your brain is trying to keep you from screaming in a public parking lot. I texted Matt. "You were right. Caught them tonight. I'm going to throw up." He called immediately, but I couldn't talk. I couldn't even think. When I got home, Jenna was already there, barefoot, flipping through channels like she hadn't just touched another man's thigh in a parked car. "Hey babe," she said. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, walking past her to the kitchen. "Just traffic. You want something to eat?" she called. "No thanks. Ate already." She didn't question it, just nodded and went back to her show. And that night, as we got ready for bed, she wrapped her arms around me like nothing had changed. I looked at myself in the mirror, toothbrush in hand, and said the words out loud. "She's cheating on me." It sounded like someone else said it. Some poor fool who still thought this could somehow be fixed. The next morning, I found myself at work reading articles with titles like "How to Catch a Cheating Spouse Without Breaking the Law" and "Signs Your Marriage is Built on Lies." Every other tab was something grim. But one thing stood out, a quote from some no-nonsense divorce lawyer in Chicago. "Don't confront unless you're ready to lose everything or win everything. Never go in blind." And that's when I started planning for real. Not just observation, not just notes. I needed evidence. I bought a voice-activated recorder. Nothing fancy. Amazon, $40. I tucked it into a potted plant near our living room couch. Another one in her car's glove box. A camera, disguised as a USB charger, went into the wall outlet near the front entryway. Felt wrong. Felt invasive. But so did infidelity. I kept telling myself this wasn't revenge. It was clarity. And when Matt asked me the next day how I was holding up, I sent him a picture of the tiny audio recorder resting in my palm and texted, "Game on." Took 3 days. That's all it took for the house to hand me what I needed. The living room recorder caught the first thread. A Thursday afternoon. I was at work. Jenna had come home early. Said she needed to get some invoices out to a client. The audio crackled slightly. Then came the unmistakable chime of the front door opening. Then footsteps. 2 sets. Then her voice, soft and excited. "You made it." Then his, "Told you I would." Jake. I didn't even need to hear the rest to know. But I did hear the rest. The recorder picked up everything. Her giggles. His laugh. The wet sounds of kissing. Clothes rustling. Whispers that stung like acid. "I missed you," she murmured. "You smell incredible," he said. And then the clincher, Jenna. He doesn't suspect anything. He thinks I'm just tired from practice. I closed the laptop. My hands were shaking. Not with sadness, not anymore. Rage is clean. It clears out doubt like a fire through dead wood. And what was left when that fire burned? Resolve. Matt came over that night. I didn't even need to say anything. I just played the audio. "Jesus," he muttered when it was done. "You gonna confront her?" "Soon," I said. "But not yet. I want her to hang herself with more rope." Friday, I dropped a GPS tracker in her car. Another Amazon buy. I synced it to my phone and waited. Saturday night, she said she was going to a movie with Dana, her oldest friend. I smiled, kissed her cheek, watched her drive off. Then I checked my phone. The dot didn't move toward the theater. It went east, toward the edge of town, toward a motel called the Hollow Pines. I knew the place. A single-story stretch of beige rooms with flickering neon signage. The kind of place people didn't go to sleep. I didn't follow her in. I waited until morning. Sunday afternoon, while she was in the shower, I slipped her phone from the nightstand and connected it to my laptop. Took less than a minute to copy everything. Messages, photos, notes. One text thread was marked with a star. "Jake, you looked incredible last night." "Jenna, so did you. Can't wait for next time. You make me feel like I'm 20 again." "Jake, you're better than any girl my age. By far." "Jenna, he doesn't even touch me anymore. You make me feel alive." That word again. Alive. Like I was a death sentence. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours. And then, without thinking, I started printing. I printed everything. Dozens of texts. Screenshots. Transcripts of the recordings. I put them in a folder. On the front, I wrote 2 words. The truth. I didn't plan the confrontation, but life did it for me. That night, Jenna came home late again. Said practice had run long. I was waiting in the dining room. The folder sat on the table between us. She frowned. What's this? Open it. She hesitated, then sat, opened it. As her eyes moved across the first page, her breath caught. Then she looked up. You went through my phone? I stared. That's your takeaway? Her lips parted. She tried again. Eric, this isn't what it looks like. Then explain Jake, I said, my voice steady. Explain the motel. The texts. The audio. Explain all of it, Jenna. She swallowed hard. It was a mistake. I didn't mean for it to happen. How long? Silence. How long, Jenna? 6 weeks, she whispered. I nodded slowly. You lied to my face. In her home. While you were in my arms. Tears welled in her eyes. I didn't know how to tell you. You've been so distant lately, so busy. Don't you dare, I said, my voice sharp now. Don't you dare put this on me. She folded in on herself, shoulders trembling. I thought he made me feel young again. I didn't think it would go this far. It always goes this far, I said. Because you took it there. She sobbed quietly. I didn't reach for her. Didn't comfort her. For the first time in our marriage, I saw her not as my wife, but as a stranger who had chosen someone else over me. And I knew there was no going back. The days that followed were quiet, but not the peaceful kind. The silence in our house had a shape, a texture. It felt like standing in the rubble after the bomb goes off, not sure whether the ringing in your ears will ever stop. Jenna moved through the rooms like a ghost. No more humming when she made coffee. No TV reruns at night. She barely looked at me, and when she did, her eyes were rimmed red like she'd been crying in places I couldn't see. But I didn't feel sorry for her. Not yet. The truth had fractured something inside me I hadn't realized was fragile. Trust isn't just a thing you give, it's something you build. And once it's broken, there's no blueprint for putting it back together. Monday morning, she left without saying goodbye. No kiss. No smile. Just the front door clicking shut behind her. I sat at the kitchen table for over an hour, staring at my untouched coffee. I thought about the first time I saw her, 9 years ago. At a bar downtown. She was wearing a yellow sweater and laughing too loud at something her friend said. I remember thinking that girl's got light in her. Where did that light go? That evening, she texted me. Jenna, can we talk tonight? Just talk. Please. I stared at the message for 10 minutes before replying. Me, fine. After dinner. She came home early for once. Sat across from me at the kitchen island. Didn't touch the food I made. She kept wringing her hands like she was working up the courage to jump into cold water. I'm sorry, she said finally. I mean that, Eric. I know you probably don't believe me. I don't, I said calmly. Not yet. She nodded as if she expected that. Maybe she had. I don't know why I did it, she continued. It wasn't love. I don't even think it was lust. It was attention. I felt seen. Jake looked at me like I mattered. So did I said. For 9 years. Tears slipped down her cheeks. You were always working. Always distracted. It felt like I was just part of the furniture. You don't get to cheat because you feel neglected, Jenna. You open your mouth. You talk. You fight. You don't lie. You don't sneak around with someone barely old enough to vote. I know, she whispered. I know. A long silence stretched between us. Then she said something I wasn't prepared for. I ended it. With Jake. I blinked. When? Yesterday. After you showed me everything. I studied her. Why? She hesitated. Because I saw what I did to you. And I realized I'd become someone I didn't recognize. I almost laughed. Now she realized? I'll do whatever it takes, she said. Therapy. Counseling. I'll quit coaching. I'll do anything if there's even a chance we can come back from this. I stood slowly. Picked up our plates. Took them to the sink. Jenna, I don't know what I'm going to do yet. But I do know this, we're not okay. And we won't be for a long time. Maybe ever. She didn't follow me when I walked away. Just sat there, staring at the cooling food between us. And for the first time since this all began, I saw her not as the villain, but as someone deeply, pathetically broken. It didn't make me feel better. It just made me tired. The first week after the confrontation passed in strange stillness. Not quiet exactly, there was noise. The hum of the refrigerator, the occasional buzz of Jenna's phone, the creak of old floorboards. But it was the kind of silence that screamed. I started waking up before dawn. Sitting on the edge of the bed with my head in my hands, staring at my socks for 20 minutes like they held answers. Jenna stopped sleeping in the bedroom altogether. She moved to the couch, said it felt more appropriate. I didn't argue. One night, I found her in the laundry room at 2 a.m. folding clothes that didn't need folding. Her eyes were hollow, her movements mechanical. You should get some rest, I said, my voice rough. I can't sleep, she murmured. Every time I close my eyes, I see your face. The night you showed me the folder. I didn't respond. I didn't know how. Regret is a funny thing. It doesn't always come with weeping and wailing. Sometimes it just sits with you like a weight in your chest, pressing down until you can't breathe right. I kept remembering things. Stupid things. The time we danced in the kitchen to a song we both hated. The way she used to steal the covers and then pretend she didn't. The night she surprised me with a birthday picnic on the roof of our old apartment. I didn't want to remember these things. But they came anyway. Uninvited and sharp. Jenna tried to make amends in small ways. She cooked more. Cleaned more. One morning she left a note beside my coffee cup that just said, "I'm sorry again." But none of it fixed what was broken. One evening Matt came over. We sat in the garage drinking warm beers from a mini fridge we never restocked. "She's still staying here?" he asked. "For now. You thinking about taking her back?" I stared into my bottle. "I don't know. Some moments I think maybe we can rebuild." Then I remember the motel. The recordings. And it's like, no. Just no. Matt nodded slowly. "You're grieving, man. It's like a death. Except the body's still walking around your house." That hit harder than I expected. The next night, I asked Jenna to meet me on the porch. She brought 2 mugs of tea and a sweatshirt she used to wear on fall hikes. We sat in silence for a while before she spoke. "Do you still love me?" I looked at her. Really looked. Her face was thinner, her eyes bruised with guilt and sleepless nights. But under all of it, there was still Jenna. Or maybe just the echo of her. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I loved the version of you who didn't lie to me. Who didn't choose someone else over us. I want to be that version again." I shook my head. "You can't go backward. None of us can." She looked away, blinking fast. "You want forgiveness," I said. "But I don't think forgiveness is something you get. I think it's something you earn. Slowly. Painfully. Over time." She nodded, tears falling quietly. "I'm willing to try," she whispered. "Even if I fail. Even if you never take me back. I need to try." I didn't answer. I didn't promise anything. But I didn't walk away either. And in that small, aching moment, maybe that was enough. It happened on a Thursday. Not a dramatic day. No storms, no flickering lights. Just a Thursday, overcast and quiet. Jenna had made dinner. Pasta with pesto and grilled vegetables. I hadn't asked for it, but she'd been trying to do that more lately, make things from our early days. I ate in silence. She watched every bite like it might be my last. When I finally looked up, I said it quietly. "We need to talk. Really talk." Her fork froze halfway to her mouth. "Okay." I stood, not angry, just tired. "Let's go to the park. Now. Somewhere public. I need to say this where neither of us can raise our voices or storm off." She didn't argue. Just grabbed her coat and followed. We drove in silence to Birch Hollow Park. It was nearly empty. A few joggers. A woman with a stroller. Nothing dramatic again, just life moving forward like it didn't care what we were about to say. We sat on the farthest bench from the walking path. The one we used to go to in the fall, just to watch the leaves change. I pulled a folded piece of paper from my coat pocket. "What's that?" she asked. "Questions," I said. "Answers I need to even think about moving forward." She blinked fast but nodded. "Okay." I took a breath. "Did you ever talk about me with him?" Her mouth opened, closed. "Yes. A little." "What did you say?" "I said things were strained. That you didn't notice me anymore. That I felt invisible." I nodded slowly. "Did you tell him you loved him?" She shook her head. "No. Never. It wasn't that kind of thing." "Did he say he loved you?" A pause. "Once." I didn't answer. I let that sit between us. The wind rustled through the trees overhead. "Why didn't you stop it sooner?" Her voice broke. "Because part of me wanted to feel wanted. And part of me hated myself for needing that." I looked at her. "Do you hate yourself now?" "Yes." I folded the paper and slipped it back in my pocket. "I'm not asking for a performance. I don't want tears if they're just theater. I want truth, Jenna." "You're getting it," she said. "For the first time in a long time, you're getting the real me." I stared out at the lake. "Then here's mine. I still love you. God help me, I do. But I don't trust you. Not even a little." "I know. And without trust, love just sits there. Like an unlit match. It doesn't warm. It doesn't do anything." "So what do we do?" she asked. I sighed. "You move out. Just for a while. I need space to think. To breathe." She flinched. "Is this goodbye?" "No," I said. "But it might be. I don't know yet. And if we ever have a shot at fixing this, I need to miss you. I need to see if what's left is worth fighting for." She nodded, wiping her cheek. "Okay." We sat for a while longer, not talking. Just breathing the same air. Then she reached over, squeezed my hand and let go. And that was the last thing she touched before we stood and walked back to the car. Jenna moved out that Saturday. No yelling. No suitcases slammed. Just quiet trips from bedroom to car, arms full of folded sweaters and labeled boxes. She didn't ask for help and I didn't offer. We were two people completing a task neither of us wanted but both understood had to happen. She left behind a note. Not a long one. Just a few lines scribbled in her delicate handwriting. I know I broke something sacred. I'm giving you the space you asked for. I hope one day you'll let me try to rebuild it. I put it in the drawer with the receipts and expired coupons. Couldn't bring myself to throw it out. Couldn't bring myself to read it twice. The house felt like a museum after she left. Every room still carried her scent, her fingerprints, her shadow. Her travel mug was still in the dishwasher. One of her earrings sat alone on the bathroom sink. Even her hair tie was on the nightstand like she'd left in a rush but didn't. It was more like she had evaporated. I didn't sleep much. Or eat. I took to walking the neighborhood late at night, hoodie pulled up, hands jammed in my pockets. I didn't recognize myself in the windows I passed. I looked like a man halfway through being erased. Matt stopped by twice. Once with whiskey, once with Chinese food. Both times I tried to smile. Both times I failed. This is the worst of it, he said, leaning against the kitchen counter. You're in the crater. You just haven't figured out yet that you survived the blast. I nodded but didn't believe him. One night I opened Jenna's drawer. Not to snoop, there was nothing left in it but to feel something. Inside, at the very back, was a photo. Us. From the cabin trip 2 winters ago. She had her arm around my waist, cheeks red from the cold, that stupid wool hat I loved falling over her eyes. She was laughing. I was smiling at her. I stared at it for what felt like hours. Then I put it face down. That week I saw Jake. He was walking out of the gas station near the high school, earbuds in, looking like he didn't have a care in the world. And for one hot second my body moved on its own. I stepped toward him. I don't even know what I meant to say, maybe nothing. Maybe everything. But he looked up and our eyes met. He stopped. Took out one earbud. Hey. That was it. No apology. No fear. Just, hey. And I said she was my wife. He blinked. I know. I stared at him. This kid. This barely grown person who stepped into my life like it was a sandbox and kicked over the castle. You didn't love her, I said. He nodded solemn. I know. Then he walked away. I stood there for a long time after. Wondering if I should have hit him. Wondering if it would have made me feel better. But I didn't. Because he wasn't the one who owed me everything. And he wasn't the one I still dreamed about at night. The first sign that things might turn came from the least expected place me. It was the second Sunday since Jenna moved out. The house was still too quiet, but something about the stillness had changed. It wasn't grief anymore. It was breath. Like the air had started to move again. I sat in the backyard with a coffee I actually finished. The breeze felt good. Honest. It didn't lie to me like her eyes had. And yet I found myself wondering if redemption was possible. Not just hers. Mine, too. Because what do you do when you lose faith in the person you trusted most? You start rebuilding faith in yourself. Matt dropped by that afternoon. You look better, he said, eyeing me suspiciously. I slept 6 hours last night. I think that's a record. Did you dream of stabbing Jake with a garden fork? I laughed. First time in days. Nah. I think I'm done wasting mental rent on him. Then you're healing, man. He clapped me on the shoulder. So what's next? I looked out at the yard. I'm not sure. I keep thinking about closure. But I don't think it's something you find. I think it's something you make. That evening I did something I hadn't done in weeks. I called Jenna. She answered on the second ring. Eric? Her voice cracked like it hadn't said my name in years. I'm not calling to yell, I said. I need to ask you something. Anything. What are you doing to get better? Not for us. For you. She was quiet a moment. I'm going to therapy. Twice a week. Group sessions too. I joined a support circle. All women who've made mistakes. I closed my eyes. Good. I think about you every day, she said. Not about coming back. About how much I hurt you. I didn't know what to say. So I didn't say anything. She spoke again. Eric, I'm not asking you to forgive me. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I'm going to keep showing up. Even if it's from a distance. There was something in her voice. Not desperation. Not sadness. Just sincerity. I'm not ready, I said. But I'm not broken anymore, either. I know, she whispered. And I'm proud of you. After the call, I sat in the quiet and let it wash over me. The pain hadn't disappeared, but it had softened. The sharp edges had dulled. Maybe we'd find our way back to each other. Maybe not. But either way, I was starting to believe in something again. And that was enough. 3 weeks had passed since the phone call. Jenna stayed gone. She didn't press, didn't text unless I reached out first. But when she did respond, she was measured, calm, clear, like someone who was finally listening to herself for the first time. I took the time to find my own footing again. Signed up for therapy myself, something I never thought I'd do. It helped. A lot more than I'd expected. I talked about grief, betrayal, fear. But mostly, I talked about anger. How it builds in the spaces where trust used to live. One afternoon, my therapist asked, if Jenna were standing in front of you right now, no agenda, no pressure, what would you want her to know? I didn't hesitate. That I haven't closed the door. But I'm not holding it open forever either. The following weekend, Jenna asked if she could drop something off. I told her I'd leave the porch light on. She arrived carrying a cardboard box, awkward and heavy. Inside were books, notes, a couple framed photos, and on top, a sealed envelope with my name. After she left, I sat on the steps and opened the letter. It wasn't an apology. Not exactly. It was a timeline. Dates. Moments. Honest admissions. It was the first real confession I'd seen, unmarred by excuses. The last paragraph read, "You don't owe me a second chance. But if there's still a heartbeat left in what we had, I'm here. I'm rebuilding me so I can be someone worthy of you again, even if that means someone else gets the version of me you deserved." I didn't cry. I didn't smile. But I reread it. Twice. That night, I lay in bed and thought about the smallest things. How she used to tuck her hair behind her ear before starting a story. How she always double-knotted her laces before a run. Things I hadn't noticed in years until they were gone. I didn't call her the next day. Or the one after. But on the third day, I found myself standing outside the bookstore she loved. I picked up a novel she once quoted during our first fight, something about forgiveness being a decision made every single day. I read the first chapter, then went home and texted her one word. "Coffee?" She responded within a minute. "Anytime. Anywhere." We met that Sunday. Neutral ground. A small cafe tucked between a florist and a vintage shop. We didn't talk about the past. Not yet. We just talked. And as she stirred cream into her coffee, hands a little nervous, eyes a little brighter, I realized something. Redemption doesn't mean erasing the pain. It means walking forward with it, step by shaky step, until the weight doesn't own you anymore. And maybe, just maybe, walking that road together. We started slowly. Weekly coffee turned into walks. Walks turned into dinners. We were careful, intentional. No declarations. No pretending the past didn't happen. Just two people trying to relearn how to see each other without flinching. There were setbacks. Moments where I'd catch her hesitating before answering a question. Nights when I'd wake up from a dream and feel the weight of everything we lost pressing down on my chest like a ghost. But she never ran. And neither did I. One evening, she came over with a Tupperware of lemon chicken, my favorite. It was the first time she'd been in the house in nearly 2 months. She stood in the entryway like a guest, her keys dangling awkwardly in one hand. "You can sit down," I said, managing a half smile. "It's still your chair." She exhaled something that almost sounded like relief and took her usual spot at the kitchen table. We ate quietly. She didn't fill the silence with nervous chatter. I didn't press for conversation. It just was. Afterward, we sat in the living room. I turned on the fireplace. The flames flickered gently against the walls. Jenna pulled her knees to her chest on the couch. "I've been thinking," she said after a long pause. "About the life we had. The one I nearly destroyed." "You didn't nearly destroy it," I said. "You did." She nodded. "Yeah, I did. But you're still here. So maybe there's a new life hiding underneath the wreckage." It was the most honest thing either of us had said in weeks. I looked at her and realized I wasn't holding the same woman anymore. And maybe that was okay. Because I wasn't the same man either. "We can't go back," I said. "But maybe we can go forward." And for the first time, she smiled without sadness behind it. The rebuilding was slow. We started therapy together. We re-established boundaries. We didn't move her back in, not right away. But she kept showing up. Consistently. Gently. Fully. Months later, I found myself reaching for her hand one night as we walked home from a movie. It was instinctive, unplanned. Her fingers slid into mine like they'd never left. And in that small, quiet moment, I realized forgiveness isn't a finish line. It's a daily practice. A vow you renew, not with words, but with actions. We still argue. We still hurt. But we also laugh. We cook. We dance in the kitchen again. Love, I've learned, isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. About choosing someone again and again even after they've broken your heart because they're trying with everything they have to earn their way back in. And one day, maybe not long from now, I'll wake up, roll over, and find peace staring back at me. Not because everything is perfect, but because we made it through the fire. Together.